Metal Slug Anthology is an awesome collection that includes 7 of the classic run and gun games. I've only played the first in the series, and that was many years ago, so I was very excited to see how the series has developed during each game. This is the 10th anniversary edition of the arcade classic. It includes Metal Slug, Metal Slug 2, X, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Metal Slug is a beloved franchise because of its chaotic, side-scrolling arcade shooting and vibrant design. This is the perfect time to replay the games or ones you've missed, and if you've never played them before, this is a fantastic package. Metal Slug started out in 1996 with the release of Metal Slug Super Vehicle 001. The game is a military theme which is side-scrolling platforming, plenty of shooting and a great sense of humour. The games all have a similar narrative which is simple and to the point. The game focuses on futuristic battles between two military groups known as the Regular Army and the Rebellion. The games are set in the future of the year 2026, when the Rebellion Army has started an attack on Regular Army forces. The Regular Army decides to up the ante and start designing and building powerful weapons and vehicles. They designed a tank codenamed Metal Slug, and that was put into production. The Rebellion managed to get hold of many of the newly produced Metal Slug tanks and starting using them against the Regular Army. It's your job as the Regular Army to attack with the remaining force you have and recapture the vehicles or destroy them. You can play as various characters across the 7 games, each with different personalities and traits. I played through the games in the original order of release, so I could see how the series developed over time, even if only very minor in some parts. The first Metal Slug game, from what I played, was one of the strongest, as it felt concise, deliberate and beautiful in design. Each stage is the same. You run from left to right, shooting everything your way and picking up various items. You blast your way through waves of soldiers, creatures and weird beasts, and even occasionally shoot through massive environmental objects that crumble to reveal new pathways and areas. Weapons are varied, like flame guns, shotguns, missile launchers, and you can even melee attack enemies when they're in close range. I'm not going to review every single game separately, however I will pick out key changes and additions that arose as I progressed through each title. Metal Slug 2 still played in the same way as its predecessor, but this time there's different enemies like mummies in an Egyptian setting. Your character can transform into a mummy, or you can become fat, meaning you move slower and are less effective. Metal Slug X comes after Metal Slug 2 and is a basically remixed version of 2. This time, enemy numbers are different, enemy placement is mixed up and the music has been remastered. Metal Slug doesn't offer too many changes, but it's still worth playing and still feels like a decent addition to the overall package. Metal Slug 3 feels like a breath of fresh air after 2 and X, and it offers some different levels and enemy types to contend with. The stages here are all still very linear, but have the same starting point and end point with boss battles, but how you get there is very different. There are different routes and pathways you can take. I actually replayed the first few stages of this game to see how I could play through each area in a different way. An example of this would be where you could choose to take the high route by foot or use a vehicle down low to blast through enemies. It's also important to bear in mind that the different routes may offer different items you can collect. Then came 4, 5 and 6, and whilst still great games, they very much felt like rehashes or mixed up versions of things we had seen in previous games, like circling helicopters shooting down from above or moving boat sections. All 7 of the games in this collection are very challenging, but you do have the option for unlimited continues. I have to say that if this wasn't available, I would have really struggled to make any progress, as I did find myself staring at the continued countdown timer far too often. Every game is pretty much the same, as it sees you dropped into a new environment, move from left to right and shoot everything you see. You even shoot the hostages to save them. The more hostages you save will help you along the way. You get things like weapon upgrades, which can be incredibly powerful against enemies. I actually really enjoyed the simple setup of the game, and it reminded me of the recent Broforce game with its different characters, chaotic action and tons of destruction. You can play the game using the analog stick, but it's much more effective and responsive to use the D-pad. The controls are tight and extremely responsive, which is incredibly important when it comes to a game like this, where the difficulty ramps up very quickly. The key mechanic is obviously shooting, but you can also jump, duck, melee and throw grenades. Grenades are your best friend, and I can't stress how much they help me during difficult situations, especially boss battles. You can jump into various Metal Slug vehicles during every game, like tanks, submarines, and semi-robotic camels. These moments are extremely fun and useful for clearing out tons of enemies. The bosses are another real highlight of the game. They're fantastically designed, extremely varied, and require you to plan out your method of attack. What I love about the Metal Slug games is that you spend a lot of time dying to eventually beat the insane boss, where you then think you have time to breathe, but in fact you're thrown straight back into the action. The bosses do get extremely challenging and almost feel unbeatable at times, but you only ever die because of your own mistakes. The bosses never felt unfair, and once you start to recognise patterns and attacks, you can effectively take down each boss. Now I want to talk about the visuals, which are simply gorgeous. Everything you see in the games is hand-drawn and is one of the most visually impressive and engaging 2D side-scrolling games I remember playing in a long time. Even if you weren't aware that these games are relatively old, I believe they can stand up visually to current games of this ilk. The colour schemes are fantastic, the environments are varied and full of detail, and it's worth taking time, if you can, to appreciate and take a look at the backgrounds, whether it's the backdrops or character design. The shooting looks awesome and the explosions look even better. The game runs smoothly, apart from 5, which for some reason stuttered at times. That being said, the animations are smooth and the controls work great. The bosses are wonderfully designed and mixes up gameplay well. The sound design is also very well done, but it does remain pretty much the same throughout. The later games do sound slightly different, but overall the games have an electronic beat that escalates throughout. The music makes you feel like you're taking part in an action movie, as you obliterate everything in your path. The sound effects are solid, with powerful sounding weapons and brilliant one-liners from the various characters. Overall, I can't express how much I enjoyed getting to play these games in this collection. Even some of the later games felt a bit stale, and it feels like a bit more sort of a best hits edition. The controls are responsive and the shooting is downright awesome. This is the perfect package for those looking to jump into the franchise for the first time or wanting to replay it. Metal Slug 6 is by no means the best game here, but it's certainly worth playing and is a valid and respectful addition to the collection. Metal Slug is a beloved franchise and a series of games and a collection that proves why people love the game so much. I hope you enjoyed the review, and please stick with Mousedrop with Gaming to see the latest gameplay and reviews. Thanks for watching, guys.